I'll present some ideas for, I guess, energy conservation, good heating and cooling. Energy conservation isn't just something that is good for the environment, but it's also good economically speaking. And like I don't really care for the. I mean, I do care. I don't want the environment to be a mess, but it's not exactly my main focus. I'm really focused on the economic part of it, and if I want to be self-sufficient, I don't want to be living on the grid or living on off of the power source. So here's my little, what would you call this? A demonstration? I don't know the word. There's a better word for it. And I'll explain each thing. So here's the roof, and it's tilted to the south. Most of it's tilted to the south, so you could place solar panels on it. And I'm not going to go in depth in this video about that, but yeah, that's why it's tilted strangely like this towards the south. And it'll be a metal roof because metal is quite stable. I would be thinking copper. That's expensive though. It'd be neat to have a copper roof, especially when it got a patina, when it turned green. And it's just good for I guess the rainwater that drained off. It would have some dissolved copper in it or something. I'm sure the rain would be acidic enough to do that. But yeah, the metal roof, which would also absorb a lot of heat, so that's not too good in the summer. But I have a trick for that too. Metal roof, air circulation space, very important. These right here would be air vents, or there'd be some sort of ventilation in these little areas. These are passive solar rooms, and like they're not living spaces. You wouldn't sleep in one of these, even though theoretically you could put chairs and stuff in there. The main purpose of this entire space in the house is to receive sunlight from the south and have thermal masses absorb the rays. And of course, through that, the heat would rise, and I could collect that into the living space. And the living space would be well insulated. Now, I guess that would also include some of this too when I think about it. This entire space would be pretty well insulated. This kind of represents the basement. This would be like the first floor, second floor. Yeah, ground level, so basement. And then the geothermal systems are also interesting. Now, the next slides I'll show you, they don't show a very accurate representation of exactly what I would do with these, but you'll get the gist. It's not really what they'll look like, it's more of the what I'm trying to convey. And of course, you have the heating system on the south side of the house, or the heating geothermal part, and it's two parts instead of one. It could probably be smaller systems than your average build, but there will be separate ones, which would be, I'm assuming, more expensive. But yeah, you'd have some sort of thermal mass here, and I'll just show you, during the summer, so you have the sun beaming down, creating lots of heat, and then that heat is getting absorbed into all of this. Well, not this much, but the heat's getting absorbed. And then you see here I kind of labeled a thick white curtain. So basically there's going to be some sort of curtain to cover the passive solar rooms. Now typically the point of passive solar is to make it to where it's like you don't have to work to get heat, and you don't have to get energy, or you don't have to rely on a heating source like burning coal or something, or burning wood. But still, I would cover it during the summer for the most part with thick white curtains to reflect the light, and that would just prevent a lot more light from coming in. Would they have to be closed all the time? No, but if it's real hot out, I would not want these to be open. I wouldn't want my house to be heating. And of course, there should probably be a way to drain heat that would possibly build up in here, but this is just a very rough model. you see I pointed out thermal masses on the ground, and this would be this is, like I said, the heating system for the geothermal. And during the summer, it's not off. It's taking heat in from outside, and see you have thermal masses around it. So they're absorbing heat, generating heat, and it's getting absorbed into this, and then it's manually or mechanically being forced down to this. So it's not really a natural process here. This would take power. This would take electricity, but it's being forced through here, and then it should come out a bit cooler than the outside temperature. I don't know if it would be cool enough that I would want to pump it into my house, but arrangements could be made that maybe I could also have this go up to here, and then this right here, I'll just go on to this right now. The heat that's getting absorbed into this, heat rises, so heat would, my little brother's being crazy, heat would rise out of these air vents right here, and of course, because the heat's rising out of this, it is pulled up through these air vents right here, lower, and the air would be cooler, but it'd be pulled up because air is being left behind. This is rising. But like I said, arrangements could be made that if the air that's coming out of this is cool enough, maybe in the early summer it would come out of this pretty cool. It could be siphoned into this so that this right here actually pulls air through the geothermal system and actually cools this off. But anything could happen with that. The main point here is that I'm showing that the heat's going to rise, and there's going to be good air circulation through this area. Like I said, this is insulated. This right here is just the metal roof. It just like rests on this area right here that is insulated. And then the geothermal system, the cooling geothermal system, is having an intake on the top. So I have an arrow right here. There's an intake, and it could probably take in anywhere from the roof, sort of the heat spots. It would take in the heat, travel through the system, and then come out as cool air. Now cool air sinks, so you see I represent that here too. Cool air sinks, so it's going to settle on the bottom of my house, probably end up in the basement too, and it's kind of a bigger problem. The cooling is actually a bit harder. Of course, like I said, this is a rough sketch, so this right here would be more like it'd be like an AC unit. It would just, you have an air vent in all the rooms in your house, and it would probably come out of that like this, but it would have to be in the roof because cool air sinks, and I'd want it to be evenly dispersed. And then also for cooling, here, let me get something quick. Also for cooling, I would have it would be passive cooling, but it wouldn't actually be cooling the house. It would just be preventing it from heating up. During the summer, well, they'd always be there, but I'd have deciduous trees, so trees that lose their leaves in the winter, on the east and west side of the house to shade the house from the early sun, the early morning sun, and the afternoon sun. And they'd lose their leaves during the winter, so that'd be no problem. But what else do we have? I would probably during the summer, like if I had this set up, during the summer I'd definitely want to cook outside more, do more of that kind of stuff. Yeah, just think when I need to. I could also open the windows when the temperature is favorable, as long as the humidity is not too high. I live in the southeast, so it's always humid here. That's kind of the way it is. I'll go on to this now, I guess. So, I didn't point that out. The angle of the sun during the summer is a lot higher, at least during noon, is a lot higher than it is during noon in the winter. So then the sunlight would penetrate the passive solar rooms more readily, and also I wouldn't block it, so there would be no curtain here. and the sun would come in and get absorbed, and this kind of represents thermal mass right here, these areas, and the sunlight would get absorbed into that, generate heat, and then the heat would just do its thing. It travels up. The heat would pull itself up through here and come around, and the ceiling fan, which would be the only mechanical process really besides the geothermal system that I'll get to in a sec, the ceiling fan would push the heat down, and then of course the heat would rise again. But I think heating during the winter would be easier than cooling during the summer, just because I feel like I have a lot more options. But you see I have these little funky looking swirly guys because the heat's getting absorbed, but the air vents are closed, so it's trapped. And of course you can't completely close off a house. There needs to be some ventilation or you'll get mold, but this just represents some concentration of the heat in the attic. So I'll lose less of my heat through the roof during the winter. It's probably a really good idea when it comes to conserving energy. Now we'll get on to the heating geothermal. So I'll go back one, and you can see it's kind of like this is attached to the same system. This right here would sort of be heating this. Now don't think about this as airflow. It probably wouldn't be air that I'm heating. It would be something like antifreeze. I think that's used in geothermal systems a lot. But you'd have cool air being pulled in from the basement, pulled through the system, and released. This is also broad. It could be released anywhere in the house. I just put it here so I could show an even dispersion of heat. And the heat would rise and do the same exact thing as the heat from the passive solar, and the house would be warm with little effort. I mean, if I had this set up, I'd probably have like a wood furnace, because that would just be fun. That'd just be neat, and it would be an alternative heating source just in case. And then this is the cooling system. So it's really cold out. This is the north side of the house. It doesn't receive much sun, so it's really cold. The cool air is dragged in through here, through the system. The system is cooled, and the heat that's generated is released. And of course, like I said with the other one, if this generates like actual good heat, something that you'd want in your house, then I could possibly find a way to reroute that so that I can provide additional heat. Right now I just have it showing the heat going up, and for the time being I guess that would just be a good gird from the cool air, at least somewhat. And I'll go back to this once more because I could point out there would not only be one ceiling fan, there would be fans in like every bedroom. When it comes to what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, I already said that too. I'll open the windows whenever possible. I'm kind of reading off of my notes right now. But I said everything. Yeah. I don't know if I brought up the dehumidifier thing. So, with this in mind, this wouldn't be like an HVAC, which is HVAC, heating, air conditioning, and ventilation. So I'd have to have some sort of additional ventilation measure, and I'd probably also want a dehumidifier, because typically you want your house around 40%, I think 40% humidity. I'm not sure, something around there, but it would probably be in the basement. That'd probably be a good place for a dehumidifier. And well, I have no idea what that would mean. I think they generally produce heat, which you don't really want something producing heat when in your house during the summer, but there's a lot of things that you'd have to work with. And if anyone has any ideas, I'm definitely open to them. I love learning about this kind of stuff. So I'll talk about other ideas in future videos. I just want to talk about the passive solar, passive cooling, and yeah, geothermal. And then some, of course, additional heating sources and whatnot. That's about it.